What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Collider Ladies Night. We are in the midst of double Ladies Night for Smile 2, which I love, love, love. I'm also a big fan of Rosemarie DeWitt. I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
What is the movie you saw, performance you saw, personal experience you had, whatever it may be that first made you say to yourself, I absolutely have to be an actor?
Gosh. Yeah, there were a lot. God, I absolutely have to be an actor. I'm going to switch it for a second and go. I remember seeing Dead Man Walking, and I just remember going like, I absolutely want to be part of storytelling that like challenges. I mean, we're talking about a movie that's like the thrill ride, like for entertainment, like, you know, where you want. I remember seeing Misery in the theater, and like I was so scared, like the popcorn like flew over my head and into the guy's lap behind me. Like that's what this movie is. But I also just love stories that they can change your worldview and make you like grow you in some way, you know. But wanting to be an actor was like 5 years old. You know what I mean? It was like probably during like the original Willy Wonka or something. I wanted to be Gene Wilder. Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. You never know. They're rebooting Willy Wonka all the time. One day I'm going to see you in that part.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to say I want to be an actor. I find that it's often a different thing to actually believe in your ability to do it. So do you remember the first time you did something that gave you confidence in your craft and confidence that you could do that one in a million thing of becoming a professional actor?
I mean, honestly, it was like last week. Like that's how I feel. Like, you know, in like I was just doing something with Eric Bana, and when it's satisfying, I'm just always like, maybe I can do this with my life. Like this is really fun, and like I kind of like I'm getting the hang of it. But it took. I just remember I always marvel at actors who are like very young or in their 20s when they have that confidence, because I remember walking around for so long being like, will someone tell me I'm good at this? You know what I mean? Like you want that validation to just keep going. And then I think for me, I just started to receive so much, like I was changed by each role. So I was like, it doesn't matter if anybody else wants me to act. I want to keep acting for myself, you know?
Oh, that's such a beautiful thing. I have so many follow-up questions. The first one that had crossed my mind when you started to explain that, because you know, you don't necessarily need outside validation to validate the fact that you are good at your job, but it is really important, especially when you're first starting out. Do you have any particular memory of, you know, a higher up on the call sheet early on or someone behind the camera who told you, like, good job when you needed to hear it?
I mean, there probably were, but I think for me, like the most impactful were the directors early in my career who like saw me. Like Jonathan Demme and Lynn, Shelton, like there were people who like saw what you were doing and then wanted, like Jonathan used to just kind of whisper in my ear when in between takes, be you, be you, be you. And you're like, wow, that's enough. That's interesting. So I think those were more impactful than like kind of the rant, like Law and Order, like good job. Because also when you're a young actor, you feel like you're being shot out of a cannon and you can't take in anything
it's
around
a rite of passage
you.
When you're in New York, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Everyone has to be on Law and Order.
Oh my God.
Point.
No, it's a thing. I remember like until I was on it, I was like, I'm failing as
I'm
an
jumping
actor.
ahead and skipping a step I want to come back to. But when you did get on that show, were you like, I made here.
It. Yeah, I've arrived for sure. Yeah, because all your heroes, Philip Seymour Hoffman, like everybody did a guest star on Law and Order.
Because that is looked at as a rite of passage and it happened too early on, is there any particular expectations that Law and Order set that, I don't know, then you kind of held other projects you did to that standard?
It's its own thing. Like you just have to get on Law. If you're a New York actor, you have to be on Law and Order. Otherwise, like you don't count or something. I don't know.
I respect that so much. So the thing that I didn't want to skip was studying a craft like acting or any art for that matter in school. I had written down two things: a BA in creative studies at Hofstra, which is in my backyard actually, and then you trained at the Actors Center in New York.
Yeah.
Was wondering why those particular programs, what was something about each of them that made you say, I have something to gain from these programs because they might speak to how I want to learn as an actor?
Well, it's really interesting. I think I went to college to not be an actor. Like
I was wondering what creative studies was.
Yeah, it was like a make your own Sunday kind of major, but it was a school at the time. It's not even there. I think they turned it into a school of social justice, which is awesome. But it was a class, a school, was like an experimental college where like you would take a class just on Jack Kerouac, just on Samuel Beckett, on ecofeminism, on like the AIDS crisis at the time. So I kind of thought like I was going to do it and then transfer to like a conservatory. But it was such a good education because like there was a class, I didn't take it probably because there were too many stoners on it, but like they did a magic bus tour for a whole semester where you just studied the beat movement. So it was really creative. And I felt like it just really opened my mind to all things, writing, acting, all forms of liberal arts. And then the Actors Center was at the time, it's different now, it's a company, but at the time it was like the teachers from Juilliard, Yale grad, NYU grad, and they created a program where their actors could sort of brush up on their craft, but that wasn't enough to run a school, so they would audition outside actors. And I just feel so lucky I got to study with like Ron Van Loo, Bruce Katzman, like some Earl Gister, some like Lloyd Richards, like amazing acting teachers that you wouldn't have access to if you didn't, unless you went to a conservatory.
Ooh, I'll follow up on that a little. I love asking this question. Yeah. What is something you learned there that you find yourself still using on sets to this day? But then also, what is something that all the schooling in the world never would have prepared you for when you hit your first professional set?
That's good too. I do go back to when I'm stuck on a scene, like how do I want to make the other person feel? And just questions like, what do I need to move this character? What do they need to move their life forward? What are just like the homeworky things. And you usually do it either when the scenes are so badly written that you can't figure out what to do with them, or when they're so complexly written that you need a way in. Because you spend your early years, if you come up in the theater, doing like a canon of like Chekhov and Miller and stuff that you can't comprehend as a 23-year-old. You get into your 50s and you're like, oh, now I understand what that play's about. What was the other part of it?
Something that all the schooling in the world never would have prepared you for when you started working professionally.
Well, I don't know. I guess that people do come up in film, but I didn't even know that you had to wait for action. When I first, I remember being on Cinderella Man.
You don't have to wait for action, actually.
I guess you don't. I would just go and they'd be like, you have to wait until Ron Howard says to go. And I was like, oh, okay. And then on that movie, I also remember this incredible DP spinning the camera around, and I ducked to get out of the way. But he was spinning it around for my reaction, but I just didn't know my way around a film set.
Did you have to deal with any spinning cameras on Smile 2? Were you still ducking?
Actually, Smile 2 was really challenging, I won't lie, because to create the sort of experience that the audience has, you often have to look into the lens. And I need people to act with. You know what I mean? Like, I need a warm body. So I would find that really challenging sometimes to act with the lens.
That is one of the most fascinating things about this film. I'm going to dig into that deeper in a minute. I want to stick with acting techniques for a moment now. Here's another big two-parter for you. What is a particular technique that you've been using since day one and still works for you now? But also, can you tell me a new technique that you've tried more recently?
Like acting technique?
Yeah.
I think the first one...
doesn't necessarily have to be a formal thing.
That still works. Is sometimes I just declare insanity. Like I don't know what I'm going to do. And I remember making an audition tape for The Staircase. And my husband is an actor, Ron Livingston. He was taping me. And as soon as I finished the tape, he started dying laughing. And I was like, what? He's like, I don't know if that was brilliant or terrible. And I was like, send it. Then that's the tape to send. Because I like it when I can't tell the difference. And quite honestly, I don't get to play roles that it's so out on a limb that you're like, is that cringy or what? Usually they're a little bit more grounded in truth, but that was fun. A new technique. I don't know. I guess I'm always playing around with like, this is going to sound so woo-woo. Like, my inner landscape, like, what if I don't do anything? Like, what if I don't act? Like, what if I'm here and something that's just really juicy to me that's not in the script? What if I just use that today? Like, can the audience tell the difference?
I like that.
I don't know.
I think that's a beautiful example right there. So teetering into some specific credits right now. First, I'll do a broader question and let you shout out whatever you want. When you were first starting out, is there any early film or show you did that you would credit with putting into focus most what you appreciated in an on-set environment?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll go back to Rachel Getting Married. That one was, I don't even think I understood how special that was at the time. And I think the sort of, the directors that go into the books for a reason, you don't even know that they're pulling the strings when they're pulling the strings. We did a scene on, two things from that movie. I remember somebody on the crew had a little bit of a disagreement with someone else on the crew, and Jonathan walked over and said, oh yeah, there's not going to be any of that. So if you guys can't work together. So it was just like the most loving set, and it felt like a family. But also there was a moment where the scene was just getting too performative, like too slick, too good. And Jonathan was just like, it's Declan's birthday. We're all going to sing happy birthday to Declan. I'm like, now? In the middle of the scene? But he just wanted us to get away from acting for a while and then come back later with like fresh eyes. And I think only people who have so much confidence can kind of just chop up the day like that and be like, let's look over here. Let's go for a walk. Let's shake off all the things we thought that we know as actors, and then let's rediscover it.
Ugh, I love that. I vividly remember seeing that movie when it first came out with my mom in a movie theater on Long Island.
In a movie theater.
Where it should be seen.
Exactly.
Just like Smile 2.
Yes.
Do not miss it with a packed house.
Yeah.
I also had a couple specific questions that I'd whipped up about Rachel Getting Married. And the first thing I wanted to ask about was the film's awards run, because I'm always fascinated by an actor's relationship with like that whole circuit, because it can be an interesting thing. I know you don't do it for awards, but like it can really matter depending on where you are at in life and in your career. So when that movie was getting so much recognition, including your performance in it, what did it mean to you at the time?
Well, here's the thing that's so embarrassing. I because I was still living in New York and doing theater at the time, I didn't even know we were doing an awards run.
Oh, no.
Like, I look back now and I remember being like, this is what it's like to do a movie? Like, this is how many interviews you do? Why do you have to go wear so many dresses? Like, I guess I was supposed to have dreamt about that my whole life, but I just didn't. I was just really, really interested in trying to believe myself as a performer, that now I look back, I'm like, oh, I would have done so many things differently. Just, I don't know, or enjoyed it in a different way, or maybe it's not even possible to enjoy it. Who knows? But it was very intense in a way that I didn't really enjoy, to be honest with you. Like, it was really exposing, and even just interviews felt like not like a friendly environment. Now it is good. No, but not because the people weren't friendly, but because I didn't understand the purpose. You know what I mean? Like, nobody walked me through anything. And because I wasn't 20, I was in my early 30s. I think I was supposed to know. Mm-hmm. So now I get it. Like, I know why we're both here. Yeah. Like, we want people to see Smile too. Like, we work on something, we believe in it. But back then I was like, what are we talking about? All the time.
It's a very different type of conversation when those conversations are designed to produce a specific result. It creates a different kind of pressure. It's part of the reason why Ladies' Night exists, to be honest, because it's literally just about like celebrating and making one appreciate their own work in a new way or more than they ever have. And I guess in my mind, at least, because I know there's varying opinions, but celebrating what I think matters in this industry. Which is the people, and they create, and the effect is has on others.
Well, I can tell you really love it. Like, I can tell you're really into it.
Yeah. My whole world. Clearly, I love the craft of acting so much, and the variety of different techniques. And this is one of my absolute favorite questions to ask, and it's a big one. Of all the co-stars you have ever had, can you tell me someone with an approach to the work that is very similar to your own, where the second you met, you two were immediately in sync? But then I also want the opposite, someone with a completely different approach that challenged you to adapt and maybe try something new and for the better.
That's a great question. I guess I'm going to go with something kind of obvious just because we've worked together a lot, which is Toni Collette. I wouldn't say that our approach was necessarily in sync because she was, I remember, because we did a show for 3 seasons. And the script supervisor is like, Toni's like an A+, like with matching, like she just knows her craft, like top to bottom. She knows what the camera's doing. She's like, you're an F. And I'm like, an F? Why am I an F? And they're like, because you could match and you could do all these things, but you don't. And I'm like, no, I couldn't. I don't always know what I'm doing. But Toni and I, so we're different in a lot of ways. She had a ton more experience and she'd been doing it for a lot longer. But I just loved that we were always in the same scene, whether the camera was on her, whether the camera was on me. We were always going, we just both like loved to go full out for each other. And we've worked together a lot. So, and then the opposite, I mean, Johnny Depp comes to mind. My husband comes to mind. I'm trying to think. Yeah, sometimes it does feel sometimes a little gendered too, you know? Yeah, I don't know if somebody had such a different technique though. I feel like we're all in the same world. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I've ever been like, I have to meet you where you're at. You know what I mean? I feel like the magic happens when whatever you're doing and whatever they're doing affects each other. So as long as you're with someone who's porous and like open to affect, something's going to happen no matter how they got there. Yeah. You know, like maybe not everybody has a stack of notebooks. You know, some people listen to music. That's actually something I've noticed as an actor, that as a young actor, I needed to have well, we didn't have earbuds back then. What was it, a headset? Headphones?
Walkman? Discman?
Yes. I'm not that old. I didn't have a Walkman.
I think I had a Walkman.
Did we? But like,
I'm pretty sure.
Well, no, I had one, but I think I was in like elementary school. Like, I don't know if I had one on a set. Maybe it was a Discman or something. But I'm saying like those things I recognize seeing young actors like getting into the scene. And then when I work with the peers who are my age, I think a lot of us are just kind of like, ready to go, you know, in a way, because the muscle is just, we've used it so much.
I love how, because I know you don't like watching horror movies, with every person you name drop, all I want to be like is, like, did you see Hereditary?
I did see Hereditary.
Did that not absolutely terrify you?
Yeah, it all does. It's so weird. You watch that movie especially. I mean, I do want everyone to see this movie in the theater because the communal experience of these movies is unparalleled. Like, it's why we go to movies, to be that scared together. But when I watched Hereditary alone. And when I watch movies like that, I don't know why, like, the furniture starts moving. You know, like, it makes no sense. I'm like, did the refrigerator just move? Like, I can't even be in my own house if I see a movie like that.
I think that totally makes sense. I think it makes sense for a movie that is super atmospheric and it sucks you in and it causes you to kind of like look at every corner of the room for something that isn't right.
Yeah.
This movie has that effect big time.
Okay, good. I haven't seen this movie yet. I'm seeing it on Monday.
I have another question for you. Did you see The Conjuring?
Yeah, I saw that in the theater because my husband's in it.
I know. That's why I bring it up. It's one of my favorite movies, not just of 2013, of all time. I think it's one of the best horror movies ever made.
Well, because in that way, again, the reason why I feel like we have to see it in the theater is because of the experience, the ride. Literally like a amusement park ride or something that you go on together. You feel the wave. You're so scared that then you start like laughing involuntarily or psychotically or something because you're so impacted by the experience. So that was one that might have been the last one that I saw in the theater.
At least you're seeing good ones. If you're only seeing a select few, I'm glad you're seeing some of the best of the best.
Well, no, because those ones there, it combines all of it. And it's why I wanted to do Smile too. It's because it was good on the page. Because the actors were going to be good. You know, like when I know I'm going to have, I don't really differentiate the genre if I'm going to have a good experience as an artist.
Ooh, I'm coming back to signing on for Smile 2 in a quick second.
I just keep jumping down to question 18 and 20.
You're hitting on a lot of the things that I want to talk about because it's some of the most exciting stuff about the movie. But first, this is a question that I got in the habit of asking recently. I'm assuming you did not see the movie Maxine.
No.
So it is very good, but you don't need to have seen it to answer this question. But one of the ideas in it is Elizabeth Debicki plays a director in Hollywood, and she says at one point in the movie, if this movie I'm working on right now takes off, it's going to allow me to have a more meaningful voice in Hollywood. So ever since seeing that, I started asking this. When you first started out in this business, what did you think having a meaningful voice in Hollywood meant? And now, has that definition changed, or is it still the same?
I mean, when I was starting out, I think I thought having a meaningful voice in Hollywood just meant that you had access to really beautifully written material. and to get to collaborate with people just working at like the top of their game. I think that's still true. I think now though, and I'm not on social media or anything, but it looks like the question was a meaningful voice?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think does have a lot to do with platforms and influence, right? And I don't know if it has to do with entertainment all the time. It could have to do with issues, and whatnot. So I think it's changed so much and it's changing so fast. I don't even really know what it means. But I think, when the world is hurting, we all wish we had more influence, to like just help. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So sometimes I wish I had that voice.
Influence and using it the right way.
Yeah.
Well, you bring a bright spot to horror lovers' lives with Smile to, again, I've said it a couple of times. I walked into this movie having high hopes because I quite liked the first movie. It's not very often that we see an original horror concept turn into a franchise and then this second film, they get even better and make even more of the concept. So I was so pleasantly surprised and thrilled with that here. So signing on to this now.
Yeah.
Again, you don't love a lot of horror movies. You have this one now, and you also have Poltergeist.
Yeah.
What do you think it is about horror that, I know you just said you didn't separate it by genre, but what is it about horror that draws you to it as an artist?
Well, so there I will separate it by genre a little bit. I think sometimes that the dynamics you're working with as an actor can be more pronounced in horror, where there's like, it doesn't change. I don't think like you want to still be believable and nuanced and whatnot, but the dynamics are so amplified that it's almost, it's more operatic. Like in a fun way. So I really appreciate that as a genre. And is that why you asked me like why I wanted to do those two movies? Yeah. Poltergeist, I think, well, it was because Sam Rockwell was attached. I just really wanted to work with Sam. And I love the director. And that one I was really scared because I didn't really want to touch it because I think the first one is perfection. You know what I mean?
It was one of the first horror movies I ever watched. It's part of the reason why I sit here.
Yeah. So it wasn't really about that. It wasn't because I thought we could do something better with it or anything. It was really to just go on the ride with Sam and be like, what would it be like? It was an experience. Yeah. Like, let's go have that experience. And that wasn't as scary to me as making this movie. Like it had scary themes, but it's a family movie and a horror movie. This one's like a straight up, like my kids can never see it. They'll never be able to look at me the same way again. Maybe, who knows? Just because of the world you exist in, in this movie. So this one, honestly, and if I don't separate it by genre, it was a really good script.
Yeah.
It was a really good script. And there were some scenes in there that like on the page, I was like, oh, I'll learn a lot about relationships and whatnot by playing the scene. And again, I know I can't say too much because they're kind of
we'll get there.
Spoilers.
Well, I'm going to put the spoiler warning up eventually. So we can back pocket any thoughts like that for later.
Okay.
So I was also reading that part of the reason you wanted to do this movie was because you were very interested in seeing a little more about what it could mean for a mom to be someone's manager. So I was curious, did you do any research and are there any real world examples that we can see incorporated into your interpretation here?
I don't know that they got incorporated again because I felt like so much of the obligation on the actor in a horror movie is to serve that experience of the audience. You know what I mean? Them being scared. That's what I'm saying. You have to look down the lens. Like you have bigger obligations to serve. Hopefully you try to layer it in. But I did certainly get to do a deep dive, on the Kardashians. There was a TV show. I don't know if I'm getting the title right, but
I
it's
probably
like,
won't know it if it's reality.
Yeah, it was like I'm raising an effing star or something like that. And I got to go, but it really helped the relationship just to see how much is riding on these people's careers. You know what I mean? Like when your kid is famous or just that, I guess it was really helpful for me to play the part. Just like, where's the line? Like, where is it for you? Where is it your best interest? Where is it your kid's best interests? Where do they get blurry? Where's the slippery slope? I guess that was a good reason to watch a lot of bad reality show TV.
I'll have my sister fact check this part of the interview. She'll get the show,
Thank
right?
you.
One of my favorite things, though, that kind of leans into that is how you kind of play that line where you make it like a little unclear and engaging for the audience, trying to wonder, like, who is she actually serving? Is it more the brand and the business, or does she actually care about her daughter first and foremost? So when you're playing a character that it is sparking question in the audience's mind, I guess Do you have to come up with some sort of anchor, like something consistent in her so that all of her decisions, whether it seems business forward or daughter forward, are based in some sort of through line for the character?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I really love my daughter and I'm invested in her well-being. But I guess for me, the through line was also just the amount of work and sacrifice that we had put into her becoming this global pop star. And then that's where, like, we're only human. You don't know who's driving the car, after you've sacrificed so much. And then again, just the operatic nature of a horror movie, you just get to try things on that would be like too much in a drama. Where I'm like, is it weird if I look at her like this? Like if I feel menacing in this scene.
I don't know if you remember anything like this with such specificity, but is there any particular moment on set that you remember thinking to yourself, like, this is weird, they're never going to use this, and now maybe it's in the final cut of the movie? Because I know you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. And again, that's a spoiler, right? Because it's all
put it
in
in
the
back
second
pocket.
half.
Oh, we can bring it back. We'll bring it back in a minute. Before we get to spoilers, I did want to ask you about two co-stars. Of course, one being Naomi, who, my God,
I know.
I knew she was good. She is a powerhouse, taking it to an 11 from start to finish in this film. I was absolutely floored by her work. What is the very first thing you saw her do, either in prep or on set, that made you stop and go, like, damn, like you are going for it in all the right ways here?
Well, she was going for it in all the right ways in every which way. I don't think I was prepared for just what a triple or quadruple threat she was as a performer, like a singer, a dancer, an actor. I think when I knew, though, that she was going to hit it out of the park, because, you can have that talent, but then Parker has a really strong vision for what these movies could be. And she kind of had to go there. It felt very Kubrick-like, like take after take after take after take. And there was no cobbling it together. There was no like, we got it at the first half of that, so don't kill yourself. It was like, no, let's do it again with a capital A, which is, I think, also why it's so good, but I was like, oh, this girl is not only talented, but she's fierce. Like, she's tough and smart. Like, she really knows the story we're telling. She wasn't like, it wasn't like, again, sometimes the genre, right? I question, like, is it mean to women? You know what I mean? To have women be so like, subjected to so much turmoil. But Naomi was always like in charge of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, she just has such a kind of like professorial, like director hat too. So yeah, she's just, my money is on that. Yeah. That girl.
Yeah. And my money's been on her for quite a while, but I think I just like poured everything I have betting on her now.
Yeah,
My
I know.
God.
She's really inspiring.
Cannot get over this. So the other person I wanted to ask you about was Miles, who I've been a big fan of since The Wilds. It was one of his first TV shows, and I've been seeing him pop up more and more. And it's always in these smaller roles, so to speak, where he makes a really big impression. So I got a big two-part question about that.
Yeah.
What is something as a more veteran actor in this industry that you like to do for newer actors to make them feel safe, supported, like they could deliver their best work? But then also, can you tell me something unique about him that kind of added that extra energy to that dynamic that the movie needed?
Yeah. I mean, I think, and I don't know if it's conscious, but like when you've been around a lot, like it's really about building relationships. Like you want everyone to feel like it as you get to do it more, you just get more comfortable, right? So you want your peers to feel as comfortable as you do to make them do their best work. So Miles and I got like, and Naomi too, but we had a lot of fun together, and we really spent we had a lot of good chats, and then also improv. It's just like giving, because we all know what it's like when you say he's turned up in smaller roles. It's when the director gives you the bandwidth, kind of do your thing. So the more, if you feel like the director's not going to yell cut right away because they might like see what you do, you want to throw them the ball a bunch too to see what they're going to throw. So a lot of what we did, because I think there's some levity in the scenes with Miles and I, especially with his character. And I remember asking Parker and the producers, like, were you guys able to use that? Were you able to use some of the comedic stuff? And they're like, yeah, we kept it in there, because that's what Miles really brought to it. He was not afraid to be in this movie that like has this, I forget what you said earlier, like this sort of atmosphere that's very scary, but to be funny. And I think a lot of people wouldn't have had the confidence to do that there, or just to he was not afraid to put his own particular spin on it.
Oh, yeah.
In a way that was really, and also to your earlier question, where you're like a risk you took that might have been in the movie. I think we all took some risks. We're like, let's go a little bigger with it. Like, let's see if we can hold, like, let's make it like, we don't want to be campy, but how funny can we be? Like, can we comment on this like insider world of, you know,
you very
entertainment?
Much do.
Yeah.
That it works quite well. His tone with certain line delivery is just, I mean, like it's truly pitch perfect, because moments like that could easily fall flat and like suck the air out of a movie, but he makes them soar. And I was so impressed by that.
Yeah.
With that, the time has come. I'm going to tell everybody out there from this point on, this conversation will contain Smile 2 spoilers. I will repeat what I've been saying. The movie is fantastic. Go catch it in theaters now, and then you can come right back. If you push pause here, press play again after you see the film, and it kicks right off.
Am I allowed to tell spoilers?
Yeah. Don't worry, we save.
Okay.
I promise you, we save and we put warnings and we guard this with our life until the time is right.
Yeah.
Oh boy. First question that is one of the most spoilery questions I could ask. What specific notes did Parker give you in terms of doing the smile?
Gosh. I don't even know if they're notes. It's the most specific thing in the world. You know what I mean? Right down to the angle of your chin. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you know, when you're there, and when you're not there, you just have to do it again and again, you know, and you go back to him and you're like, was it it? And you're like, no, it wasn't quite it. And you know what I mean? And then you go back in and you do it again. But what you're usually doing, or at least what I was doing, you're usually doing 18 other things at the same time. You know, it's like this thing right there.
I can't do that.
Someone said, I forget what actor it was, but somebody, I remember saying it was like one of the hardest things they ever had to do was when they got to that part, because it's just super technical. So he doesn't have a specific adjective. Like, no, it's just, nope, we're not there yet. And you just keep taking cracks at it.
You nail it.
Yeah.
You nail it. It's so specific, and now the movie has made it so iconic.
Yeah.
And you have to like repeat it the same way.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is something that you thought about or maybe spoke to Parker about, but because I'm a little obsessed with lore, I think about these things. Did he ever explain what it might feel like for her to be taken over by that entity in a way, or are you kind of not thinking about that in a performance beat there?
No, it's interesting. I feel like what it is, right? Like what the mystery is that we're dealing with, the evil, the forces that we're dealing with. You know how sometimes you do a film and it's left open-ended and then the director's like, I don't know, what do you think? I feel like we were like that as actors. So I kind of felt like we were playing the realistic stakes of the movie. Like I said, the mother-daughter, the blurring of business, the commodity that, you know what I mean, that she is, like the things that we've seen with pop stars, you know, and the struggles they can face. So no, that was all just rooted in weirdly honesty, even though I know it veers into total crazyville, you know.
Given what is then revealed later in the movie, it doesn't entirely matter from that particular perspective ultimately, but I'm always curious about stuff like that.
Well, and the ending changes too. Like, you know, like the movie sometimes gets made in the edit. So like we don't even necessarily know. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of those decisions were made later.
I need to see your reaction to the third act of this movie. just for this, I'm curious if like you could scare yourself too.
Yeah. I remember doing ADR and the ADR guys were like, you don't want to see it. like you don't want to see your scene. And I was like,
it looks so good. I'll go there next because I'm absolutely obsessed with like movie magic, blood and gore and prosthetics and all of that kind of thing.
I can't believe we're allowed to talk about this. We're allowed to talk about this?
No, you're safe space right now.
Okay, because I had talking points in my phone.
Please tell me absolutely everything about going through that process. Because like you've never done anything like that before, right?
No. I mean, I've definitely had, like back in the Law and Order days, I remember I had a boyfriend at the time who we made a photo album of all the awful ways we died on TV, you know, in like Special Victims Unit, Rescue Me, you know, all these things. But so maybe back then, but no, that actually is the freakiest part I think about making a horror movie is like, whether it's you or another actor, when you spend a whole day with someone covered in blood or something, it just does something to your nervous system. Like you can't FaceTime home. You know, like you can't see your kids. Like people are just like on set, like there's almost jump scares just online for catering or for the bathroom because it just does something to your nervous system. And that's what we're trying to do to the audience. And it's, as one can imagine, it's so cold and wet.
Yeah. Did you have to do a full head cast and everything because of the eye?
Yeah, I had to do like a lot of prosthetics on the face where they kind of sealed your eye shut and then did some things but honestly, and then the scene was sad and hard. So what I ended up doing for most of the day, because it was winter in upstate New York, I didn't want to move around. I just kind of like, they gave me a heating pad and I just laid on the floor all day, you know, like in between things because to just slush around like just felt really gross.
Someone once told me like being on set covered in blood is the worst because like even if you want to go and like use the restroom, then the toilet paper is stuck to your
Everything.
hands.
It's in every part of you. I think I took maybe 2 hot showers that day in between because like we knew we had time and then you get it off you and then you have to get it all on you again.
It looks so good. It's so well worth everything you went through to pull that off.
I will say, and I wish I could give all the proper shout outs, but the special effects team, like on this movie and in general, like they do our job for us. They're so talented. That was actually a fun, cool moment. My youngest daughter, who's afraid of a lot of stuff, she's little, but came when they made the cast for my face where they lay all the thing. But it really makes you fall in love with movie magic.
The best.
Because you can't believe how many people it takes to pull something like Smile 2 off. Like the actors sit here and we say some things, but it really should be the special effects artists because they are what make you go, oh, that happened. That really happened.
I am here for those kinds of shout outs all day long. So at the very end of the movie, this is a little more of a theory question for you, but at the end of the movie, one will assume that everybody in that audience now has contracted the smile curse.
Yeah.
Do you think she has any chance of maybe not necessarily surviving it, but putting up a good fight against it?
Yeah, I feel like she has a chance to put up a good fight against it about who we've seen in this movie. And then I can't help but like draw the parallels of like, just like the way technology's taking over, like just what it is to have everybody witness this event, you know what I mean? Or be infected by something.
I truly think that a good third film idea would be following it from your perspective, where Naomi is essentially the one haunting you and you're kind of reprocessing that mother-daughter like working relationship via the haunting. But it also feels like it has to be apocalyptic now because so many people have it.
Now we have to go into full like Walking Dead mode, right?
That's kind of what I feel like when Smile 3 begins, it's going to be like New York City burning or something.
Yeah.
It's one heck of an ending. So we've covered some of the past. We've covered the present with Smile 2. I'll ask one question about a future project. I believe you might have brought this up earlier in the conversation. It's Untamed.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm very excited about that for the whole cast. I'm Jurassic Park obsessed. So anything with Sam Neill, I go straight to.
I know.
I'll keep it broad with asking about that. Is there any particular acting first you experienced making that show? Something the material demanded that you have never done before?
Just not seeing a bear. Because we were shooting up in like British Columbia and everybody was seeing bears. Eric Bana never saw a bear. I never saw a bear. Yeah, so it was a first of just being so left out.
Aww.
Like everybody in the crew saw a bear. I didn't see a bear. No, that one was really, really satisfying and rewarding, but in a like old school kind of way.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Where you're just like doing just like in the scenes, with, like you're saying with Sam Neill. Where there's another one like Naomi Lily Santiago, like another young woman that I was like, I'm so excited. Like I love, watching our next generation of movie stars coming up.
You have such great variety in your work too. Like feels like
fun.
Every single thing falls in a different genre and that's so exciting.
Yeah, that's just called trying to get a job.
You're doing it well, so keep trying to get jobs and I'll keep watching more TV shows and movies. So we've hit the last question on Ladies Night. As of late, every single Ladies Night ends with this particular question. So in this industry, people give each other awards. That is super cool. We should keep doing that. I find that nobody tells themselves good job nearly enough. Aww. I want to know something you accomplished making Smile 2 that you know you will always be able to look back on and say, I am so proud of what I did there.
I think with this one, I'm not going to lie. I feel like once you do those scenes, like the one we were just talking about with all this stuff, you feel like you could do anything. You know what I mean? Because like, I do love a technical challenge, but when you can act, you know, like while chewing gum, while Skye, you know, diving out of a plane, you know, like whatever, while, you know, yourself, like it gives you confidence for like the next 10 jobs. So I think I'm pretty proud of that last scene.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Put those skills. I want to see you go big. I want to see you like play a villain or something.
Okay. Okay.
Sign me up for it. I am going to say thank you so much for sharing some of your experience. Congratulations on everything you've accomplished and Smile to. Everything coming your way in the future. The Ladies' Night door is open to you anytime.
Thank you. Ladies' Night is so cool.